Hi, I'm Simon with AppliancePartsPros.com. Today we're going to show you how to repair your appliance. Are you ready? Remember, anytime you work on your appliance, make sure it's unplugged or the circuit breakers are off so there's no chance of electrocution. In this video, we'll show you how to replace the center tub seal in a Samsung washer. It's going to be a very easy repair. Should only take a few minutes to show you how to do it. For this job, we're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, a large flathead screwdriver, a smaller flathead screwdriver, a Torx 20 screwdriver, plastic mallet, a ratchet with an extension and 3 heads, 19, 13, and 10 millimeters, a wire brush, and a heat gun. When you open up the package, you're going to get a new center tub seal. The center tub seal is installed at the rear of the tub opening and seals it, protecting the tub bearings from corrosion and preventing a water leak. A faulty center tub seal won't cause a flood, but it's easy to detect if it's bad. A sure sign of a leaking seal would be noise during the rotation and especially during the spin. And the greasy stain runs clearly visible at the rear of the tub when you remove the rear access panel. To get the top off, we need to unscrew the steel screws. We're going to use the Phillips screwdriver and just take them out. To take the top off, slide it back about an inch, and then we can lift it off. And I start with removing this clamp from the hose. Just squeeze it and slide it up. It's not hard. Then we're going to remove the hose. Let's remove the dispenser drawer out. Press the tab and pull it out. Remove this hose from the dispenser housing. To take out the housing, we need to remove the 2 Phillips screws here, and then we can pull it out. Slide it out, and I'm gonna flip it over and put it out of the way. To remove completely the control panel, we need to take a couple of more Phillips screws. Lift up on the control panel. Turn it towards yourself and disengage the bottom clips. We need to disconnect all the plugs to free the control panel. So we're going to start with the top. This is a relay. Press in the tab and lift it off. Then I'm going to free the wire from the clips here. Second one is right there. Then the third one. Support the control panel, and there's nothing else is holding it, no more. And the last plug, and now we can remove the control panel. Now we can open the door and then remove the boot spring clamp. We're gonna peel it up a little bit, then I'm gonna use a flat blade screwdriver to pry it out. There's a spring at the bottom. And here's the clamp. Remove the boot seal from the lip. And tack it in. These 2 Phillips screws are holding the door lock, so I'll remove that screws to free the door lock from the front panel. And close the door, tuck the harness out of the way, and then we're going to remove the 4 Phillips screws that holds the front panel at the top. To open the door, we push down that little tab and it just gets open. So now we're going to need to take this off the hinges, pressing the hinge in, door comes off. Remove the pump drain hose from the retainer. And now we're going to take out the 2 Phillips screws that holds the front panel to the chassis. At this point, the front panel is held in place by these 2 tabs at the top and 3 hinges at the bottom. So we're going to open the door, lift up on the front panel to release the 2 tabs. Then we're going to close the door, tilt the panel towards you, and lift it off the bottom hinges. Let's remove this clamp. We're going to squeeze it, move it up, and then pull the hose off. And take it away. We're going to remove both counterweights. Start with the top one. That would be a 13mm socket wrench. We're going to take out 2 bolts. Kind of hold that weight with your second hand. Remove the second bolt, and then we're gonna pull this counterweight off the tub. It's not extremely heavy, but probably, I should say, about 10 pounds, so be careful. And the bottom one, again, 2 bolts, 13mm. Remove it carefully. Okay, put it aside. We need to tilt the washer back. I'm going to install the support here, and we're going to put it on it. I'm going to take this Phillips screw out in order to free the air chamber from the tub. I'm doing it because when we're going to drop down the tub, this pressure chamber could be broken. We don't need that. So I'm going to release it from the clamp here, the air hose. I'm going to reach from the bottom here and squeeze this hose clamp, slide it down, and then I'm going to pull the air chamber from the hose. So we're going to free the air hose from the clips and just let it hang down. Now we're going to use these 10mm socket wrench, and we're going to lose up that clamp and pull off the top to pump hose. We're going to squeeze this clamp, slide it down, and pull this hose off the top. Just let it down. At this point, I'm going to place the washer upright and put everything on the top, out of the way. We need to remove this rear access panel. It's held in place by 2 Phillips screws. So we're going to start putting on the gloves first. You know what, guys? I am not working all the time in the gloves, but I just want to point out that if you see me putting the gloves on, that means we're going to work with the sharp objects, like this panel. And I remove the Phillips screws. So now we can lift the rear access panel up and take it out. We're going to use the heat gun to break loose the bolt. It'll take a few minutes. Next, we're going to stick this Torx 10 screwdriver into this hole. Remember, it's supposed to be only this one. Do not use any other ones. We're going to jam the rotor. Then using 19mm socket wrench, I'm going to unscrew the bolt, hold that screwdriver all the time. Okay. And then grab it on the sides and remove this rotor from the shaft, rocking it side to side slowly, because it's held in place not only by that grooves and shaft, also by the magnets inside. And wear the gloves. Don't pinch your fingertips. Examine the magnets, see if they're not chipped, so there's nothing is damaged here. Next, I'm going to free all these wire plugs and wires from the top. Start with opening this retainer clip, pulling out the wire plug. This is our temperature sensor, the thermistor. Push down on the tab, disconnect the plug. We're going to remove 2 Phillips screws that holds the wire harness and this bracket. So release the bracket, and now we can take these plugs out. I'm going to use the flathead screwdriver. I'm going to press down the locking tab here and pull out the plug. Then squeeze those 2 side tabs and pull out the plug. Put it away. So next step would be taking off the stator. 6 bolts, 10mm size. We're going to use the socket wrench. Kind of hold that stator in place. I'm using my knee. I will let you decide what body particles you're going to use. And now we can remove the stator. So next step would be disconnecting the rear shocks from the tub. I'm going to use a 10mm socket wrench and remove the bolts that hold the shocks to the tub, one at a time, and then pull the shock off the mounting post here and push it aside, out of the way. Do the same thing on the opposite shock absorber. We're going to remove that bolt. And now for the front shock absorbers. We're going to disconnect the upper portion of the shock absorbers on both sides to free it from the tub. I'm going to use a 10mm socket wrench with an extension to remove the top bolts. Disconnect the shock absorber from the top post and push it aside, out of the way. Now we're going to disconnect the second shock absorber from the tub, and I use a 10mm socket wrench. Unscrew that bolt, push down on the tub and slide the shock from the socket here, from the tub, and then put it aside, out of the way. Squeeze that clamp, slide it up, and then we're going to disconnect the air hose from the tub. That would be our last hose connected to the outer tub. Let's remove the dispenser housing out of the way and put it outside, and check there's no stress on any of the hoses. The next step would be removal of the top brace and the front bracket. We're going to use the Phillips screwdriver to remove the 2 screws that holds the top brace. Lift the front of the brace and pull out the 2 tabs at the back. So now I'm going to remove the front bracket. It's held in place by 6 screws, 3 Phillips screws on each side. Start removing the screws. Lift the bracket off. As you noticed, I'm wearing gloves again because the metal is sharp. And we pull the harness through the cutout and I'm going to put it on the side out of the way. Using the flathead screwdriver, we're going to push down the locking tab and open that safety lock on the spring holder. Pull up on the spring to disengage it from the spring holder. Slowly put it down. Turn the spring down and disengage that bottom hook from the tub. Removing the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the flathead screwdriver, push down on the locking tab, open that safety, lift the tub by this handle with one hand, turn it and lift it, and then using the second hand, remove the spring from the spring holder. Put it down slowly, and then we can turn the spring and take that bottom hook out of the tub. Next, we're going to lift the tub out of the cabinet. Obviously, I'm using a strongman mat. Thank you. So let's lift this and slowly pull it out. And I'm going to turn it vertical and land it on a couple of supports. Next step would be separating the top and the bottom halves of the outer tub. We see here several 10mm bolts. So we're going to have this 10mm socket wrench in a bit of a patience. And I'm going to take those screws out. Now we're going to lift up on the top half and separate them. And then remove it. So I'm going to rock side to side the basket. Hopefully it's going to break loose. And we're going to lift it up. Yeah, we got lucky. If you're not so lucky, and yours is not going to move out like that easily, you'll have to turn over the lower portion of the outer tub and then pound this shaft with a hammer, but you have to put something between the hammer and the shaft like a piece of wood. To remove the old center tub seal, we're going to put this flathead screwdriver underneath of it and pry it out. This is the old center tub seal next to the new one. If you don't have this part, you can get it from appliancepartspros.com. Before installing the new center tub seal, we need to make sure that the seat is clean completely. You can use a paper towel or soap and brush and clean it if it's needed. Usually it's clean, but it could be some foreign objects. So then we're going to install a new seal. Bring the seal in and see that the hollow side goes in. Place it carefully and evenly into the opening, and using your thumbs, press it in. Then what we can do, I'm going to place an old seal on the top of the new one And using the plastic mallet, I'm gonna tap it down a little bit. And the seal is installed. It's all even, pressed in. If the tub seal, which goes around the tub, need to be cleaned, wash it with a sponge and a warm water, a little soap, and make sure it's not damaged. In our case, everything is perfect. We can proceed with installation. Before installation of the inert basket into the tub, make sure that the base is cleaned around the shaft. I used the wire brush, so you see now it's presentable. And now I can lift it up, turn it over, and install it into the opening, into the bearings. Turn it, make sure it's in the bearings and turns easily. And now we can install the second half of the tub. Now we're going to put the top halves together, match the holes and shapes, and push it down. So now I'm going to start securing the two halves of the tub with bolts. I'm going to install 4 bolts first across each other. So one goes in here, second one goes here, the third one goes in here, and the fourth one we're going to put on this side here. We're going to tighten those bolts using the 10mm socket wrench. Don't tie them yet, just make sure it stays in. Then we're going to the bolt on the opposite side from the one we just tightened in. And tighten that thing also. Then we're going to tighten this one. And number 4 on the opposite side. The rest of the bolts can be installed in random order. Now it's the time to call your friend to help you to put this thing into the cabin. Put it down slowly. Remember, there's a drain pump still installed. To install the first spring, we're going to put that short end hook through this hole in the tub. Prepare yourself for lifting it. And we're going to grab that handle, lift up the tub, and hang the spring on. If it's heavy for you, you probably should call a second person. Then we can close that safety. We're going to install the bottom hook into the opening here in the tub socket. Then we're going to grab it with both hands, lift it up, and install the spring into the spring holder. If it's heavy for you, you can ask for help, second person, or you can use a rope as a tool to pull up the spring with your both hands. And then we can close that safety lock on the spring holder. Push it in. Now we can put that bracket back on. I'm going to start with feeding the harness through the opening here. And I'm going to place these 2 tabs supposed to go into the 2 cutouts in the cabinet. That's 2 on each side. So I'm going to place one side at a time. Then I'm going to go on the opposite side here and here. And then I'm going to secure it with the screws. I don't need gloves anymore, so I can take them off. We're going to secure it with the 6 Phillips screws. 3 on each side. Now we can install the top brace. I'm going to place these 2 tabs into cutouts and lower down so that 1 tab on the front is going into the cutout. And then we're going to attach this with the 2 Phillips screws to the front bracket. We're going to start installing the front shock absorbers from that left side. And that's just my personal preference. Slide it on the post and secure it with a 10mm bolt. Start it manually, and then we're going to continue installation with a 10mm socket wrench. And now I'm going to install the second shock absorber. I'm going to match the holes and put it on the post and secure it with a 10mm bolt. Start it manually and then continue with the 10mm socket wrench. Connect the rear shock absorber one at a time. We're gonna pull it a little bit up and install it on the mounting post. And now we can secure it with a 10mm bolt here. And I use the 10mm socket wrench and tighten the bolt. Install the second rear shock absorber the same way you installed the first one. And secure it with the 10mm bolt. Now we can install the stator back on. This RPS sensor goes approximately 5 o'clock. So we're going to move it in the position and we're going to put this post in the holes here. 3 posts. I'm going to hold it and we're going to secure it with 1 bolt. Start it manually. Then we're going to put another one diagonal from the first one. And then we can use our 10mm socket wrench to tighten them. Not too much, just enough so it will stay in place. And then we're going to put all the bolts in. And tighten them up with a 10mm socket wrench. We're going to use that cross technique as everything goes. If you have more than a couple of screws or bolts, it should be attached tight in a cross shape, opposite bolts. And now we can tighten them all. Again, don't get too excited. Let's connect the plugs. We're going to start with this one on the top. Press, push it in. I'm going to lock. Then the second one, push it in, and it locks in. Then we're going to attach the bracket and the green ground wire. There's a couple of Phillips screws. I'm going to put the ground wire first. Insert that little tab into the cutout. Right, so match the holes at the bottom. and secure it with the Phillips screw. And connect this thermistor plug and put it into the retainer. And now we can place the rotor back on the shaft. We're going to match this shaft teeth with the slots in here. And go side to side. All right. Don't worry if there's could be like a little bit shaft is still in. The bolt will pull it. And start the bolt manually. And then we're going to use a 19mm socket wrench to tighten the bolt. Now we need this Torx 10 screwdriver, and we're going to put it in. To jam it, hold it, and push it down and tighten the bolt. Okay. Next we can install the rear access panel. First we're gonna align those two tabs on the top with two slots, then push it up, and the bottom tabs goes in, and then we can push it down. Two Phillips screws on the sides. We're going to secure the access panel to the cabinet. And I'm going to place the support again behind the washer, and we're going to tilt the washer back. Careful, don't hurt yourself, don't break anything. Connect the hose to the tub. There's two little, you see there's two little rubber pins. Makes a channel that goes right over the little tab here on the top. And then we're going to squeeze the clamp. It's easy to squeeze and secure the hose. It's the time now to connect the tub to pump hose back to the tub. So I'm going to slide it on all the way up, and then using the 10mm socket wrench, we're going to tighten the clamp. Should be nice and tight. You don't want it to come off during the spin cycle. Pull on it hard, see if it stays on. All right. We're going to install the air hose into the clips here on the side of the tub. And then we can connect it. We can put the air chamber tube into the hose. We're going to match this little tab here with this cutout. So it goes in all the way. Nice and tight, and squeeze the clamp, slide it up, and secure the hose. And now we can install the air chamber and secure it with the Phillips screw to the tub and put the air hose into the clamp. Now I can put the washer upright. And remove the support. We can install the bottom counterweight. Put these two holes on those two pins on the side. Hold it and install that bolt turn it manually first. Then we're going to use the 13mm socket wrench and tighten it. And then we're going to install the top counterweight. These two holes on the sides goes over the two pins here with the opening for the bolts in. Hold it, don't let go, and start the bolts manually. And tighten it with the 13mm socket wrench. And let's put the hose back on. Slide it all the way in, and then we're going to squeeze this clamp and secure the hose. The front panel goes back on. We're going to insert the drain hose into the opening and lift up on the panel, place it on the hinges at the bottom, push it forward so it will lock on the top tabs. And secure the panel with the two Phillips screws at the bottom. Place the pump drain hose into the retainer. Make sure it's not going anywhere. And this is the time for the door to go back on. Install one hinge at a time. Push it in, and then just close the door. Secure the front panel to the bracket with 4 Phillips screws. Open the door, reach inside and fish out the door lock assembly, and put it in, and then we're going to secure it with the 2 Phillips screws. Let's install the boot seal. I'm going to pull it out. We have to install this lip over that front panel's lip. Don't rush, take your time. Make a visual check that it's installed properly. Now we can install the boot spring clamp with the spring at approximately 6 o'clock. Put it in, then hold it. Jam the flathead screwdriver approximately 2 o'clock here, and then stretch the spring and place the spring clamp in with the flathead screwdriver. Make sure it's in the groove all around the seal. Then pull the seal. Pull hard. You don't want to have your laundry room flooded. All right, you can close the door now. Bring in and install the control panel. We're going to start with connecting all the wire plugs. We cannot possibly mix them around because they're all different. And continue plugging it in. Put it under the here under the retainer. And the last one. Turn it over. Make sure that there's no hanging connectors around. Everything is attached. Then we're going to match the pins with the cutouts. Turn it forward. press in the bottom. And then we're going to secure it with the Phillips screws. And now we can install the dispenser back. We're going to put this tab into the cutout and this tab into the upper cutout. And now we can put 2 Phillips screws in. Let's put the hose back into the dispenser housing. Push it into the clips here. And the dispenser door goes back in. We're going to place those 2 edges into the cutouts and push it in. Let's connect this hose to the tub. Push it on. Make sure it slides on all the way. Sits perfect. Then the clamp goes on. Squeeze it. Well, you know what? I'm going to use both hands, but you pretty much understand what I'm doing. Push it down. Now we can put the top back on, install it approximately an inch away from the front panel. Then we're going to slide it forward and it locks in. Let's secure the top to the cabinet with 2 Phillips screws. Plug the washer in and make sure it runs good. Thank you for being a part of another successful repair brought to you by AppliancePartsPros.com. For any of your future appliance repair projects, please check out our other videos available on our site, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram.